I believe in miracles, because I believe in God. And today, I have come with a word that's not just a speech. It's a divine announcement. You didn't stumble in here by accident. You didn't press play by coincidence. Heaven has scheduled this moment because something is shifting in your life. I want to declare to every dry place, every waiting season, every dream that's been delayed, you're entering your millionaire phase. Just in money, but in mindset, in purpose, in flow, in favor. What you've cried for in private, God is about to release in public. There's a new wind blowing, and I feel the Spirit of the Lord saying, it's your time, it's your turn, and it's your territory. So get ready not to chase money, but to attract overflow. Not to beg for opportunities, but to walk in doors that only God could open. Because this isn't hype. It's heaven's announcement. You're not just surviving anymore. You're stepping into your millionaire phase. And nothing can stop what God has started. Wealth begins with a renewed mind, not a full bank account. That simple truth overturns the world's entire system of success. Most people think wealth is something you get when your paycheck increases, when your investments multiply, or when some sudden windfall finds its way into your life. But true, sustainable, destiny-driven wealth always begins on the inside. It begins when your mind breaks out of limitation and steps into divine alignment with who God says you are. Before you can walk into your millionaire phase, your mindset has to graduate from scarcity to abundance. Scarcity tells you there's never enough, so you live in fear. Scarcity whispers that someone else's success means your delay. Scarcity convinces you that lack is your portion and that just surviving is acceptable. But a renewed mind starts to believe what heaven already knows, that you are not created to barely get by. You are created in the image of a limitless God. There is no shortage in his kingdom. There is no lack in his plan. The only thing that has to shift is how you see. A renewed mind is not just positive thinking, it is supernatural transformation. It's what Romans 12:2 declares, be transformed by the renewing of your mind. This means the change you are waiting for doesn't start with a new job or a bigger opportunity. It starts in the realm of thought, perspective, and belief. You must begin to think higher, speak differently, and see through the eyes of faith. A renewed mind looks at a negative bank account and still says, this is not my end. My source is greater. A renewed mind no longer agrees with defeat. It stands in agreement with destiny. When God prepares you for wealth, he doesn't hand you money first. He hands you a revelation. He gives you insight. He corrects your identity. He takes you through the fire so that when the blessing comes, your character can carry it. That's why some of your greatest financial breakthroughs will be preceded by some of your hardest internal battles. God is making sure that your mind can host what he's about to release. Because without the renewal of your mind, you'll self-sabotage every blessing he sends. You'll believe you're unworthy. You'll mismanage provision. You'll run from favor because you don't believe it belongs to you. There are people who won the lottery and lost it all. There are entrepreneurs who built fast empires and watched them crumble. Why? Because money without a renewed mind is a setup for collapse. But when your mind is renewed, money becomes a tool, not a trap. It becomes a servant to your purpose, not a master over your peace. That's why God works on your mind before he works on your millions. He loves you too much to let your gift grow faster than your thinking. Your millionaire phase requires a mindset that aligns with your next level, not your current environment. You can't keep thinking like who you were and expect to step into who you're becoming. Old thoughts cannot carry new wine. You have to upgrade the way you think about wealth, opportunity, and stewardship. You must see yourself as someone trusted by God to carry influence, impact, and resources. That means letting go of guilt around money. Letting go of the belief that wealth and holiness are opposites. Letting go of the fear that having more will make you less spiritual. A renewed mind knows that the more you have, the more you can serve. The more you're blessed, the more you can build. Mind renewal also means healing from poverty mindsets that came from trauma, culture, or upbringing. If you were told you'd never be more than average, that success is for other people, or that money is evil, those lies have to be unlearned. The renewed mind doesn't accept limits that didn't come from God. It interrogates every thought that contradicts divine truth. You have to be willing to challenge what you were taught and ask, does this align with the abundance of God's word or the fear of man? Because the truth is, your bank account may say one thing today, but your mind has the power to rewrite tomorrow. Once your mind is renewed, you stop waiting for permission to prosper. You stop apologizing for dreaming big. You stop shrinking to make others comfortable. You realize that playing small is not humility, it's disobedience. And when your mind rises, your life will follow. You'll begin to make decisions based on destiny, not desperation. You'll steward every dollar with clarity and confidence because your wealth didn't begin with a check. It began the moment you started thinking like someone who's already trusted with overflow. Your obedience in the valley prepared you for overflow on the mountain. It's easy to talk about success and blessings when everything is going well, when doors are opening, when the bank account is growing and the opportunities are flowing. But true preparation for elevation doesn't happen on the mountain. It happens in the hidden places, in the silent struggles, in the places where nobody sees the sacrifice. The valley is where character is formed. The valley is where obedience is tested. And it's in the valley where God watches to see if you can be trusted with more. Obedience in the valley isn't glamorous. It doesn't come with applause. There are no spotlights in the valley, just quiet moments where your yes to God doesn't feel like it's producing anything yet. It's the choice to stay faithful when no one else believes in the dream. It's choosing to tithe when you barely have enough to cover the bills. It's continuing to serve when your name is overlooked, continuing to give when it hurts, continuing to build when progress is slow. These are the moments when you could walk away, but you stay. These are the tests that don't feel like tests, they just feel like life. And yet heaven is recording every act of quiet obedience. Many people want the overflow, but few are willing to walk through the valley season that unlocks it. The valley doesn't just teach you patience, it reveals your priorities. When God delays the blessing, will you still trust him? When nothing looks like the promise, will you still obey his voice? Your millionaire phase is not built on the mountaintop. It's rooted in the valley of decision. It's built in those midnight prayers, in those moments where you choose integrity over convenience, in those choices to remain generous, even when you feel empty. The valley is sacred because it purifies your motives. When you're low, you learn who you're really doing it for. Are you chasing God or just the results? Are you seeking purpose or just a platform? In the valley, God removes what can't go with you to the next level. He breaks off pride. He refines your desires. He teaches you how to walk by faith, not by sight. Obedience in the valley creates a foundation that wealth cannot shake. Because if your faith only works when you're winning, it's not faith, it's convenient. God often hides your preparation so that your heart is ready for visibility. That in season, the valley is where He stretches you, matures you, and builds your resilience. You learn how to trust God with little so you don't panic when you have much. You learn to be grateful when no one is clapping. So when the crowd finally comes, it doesn't control you. You learn how to manage emotional storms so the pressure of success doesn't destroy your peace. Every valley moment is a setup for future stewardship. People may look at your breakthrough and say it happened overnight, but they don't know the years you spent being faithful when nothing seemed to move. They didn't see the nights you cried and still said yes to God. They didn't hear the no's you endured or the opportunities you let go of because they didn't align with your calling. That kind of obedience doesn't just prepare you for wealth, it anchors you so that the wealth doesn't move you out of alignment with your purpose. God never wastes obedience. Every seed of faith planted in the valley will produce harvest in due season. You don't have to chase reward. Reward is drawn to obedience. Overflow follows those who are consistent when it's hard. That consistency becomes a magnet for open doors, divine connections, and supernatural provision. The mountain may be where others finally see what God is doing in your life, but the valley is where heaven proved it. It's where you passed the test in secret, and now God is getting ready to reward you openly. Obedience in the valley also trains you in spiritual authority. You learn to move by God's voice, not your feelings. You become sensitive to His leading. You gain discernment. So when the overflow comes, you won't be deceived by counterfeit opportunities. You'll know what's from God and what's simply a distraction dressed in favor. That kind of clarity is priceless, and it only comes through valley seasons where you had to lean on God completely. Those who obey when it's difficult are the ones God can trust with abundance, because He knows the wealth won't change your heart. Your heart was already surrendered. He knows the visibility won't shift your values. Your values were forged in the dark. That kind of obedience is the soil for sustainable success. It's not rushed, not manipulated, not manufactured. It's cultivated in the quiet, refined through trials, and honored by heaven. And when the mountain comes, you'll walk in overflow, not because of luck, but because your valley qualified you. Divine provision follows divine positioning. Many people seek provision without seeking where God wants them to be. They chase opportunities, relationships, and platforms, hoping those things will unlock the overflow they desire. But provision is not found in just any place. When you align yourself with God's purpose for your life, you unlock a flow of provision that cannot be explained by logic or limited by circumstances. The problem isn't that God isn't providing, it's that many are standing in the wrong place, trying to receive what was never assigned to that location. Positioning is not just about geography, it's about posture, timing, and alignment. Divine positioning means being where God told you to be, when He told you to be there, and doing what He told you to do. That alignment attracts resources, favor, and divine connections. When Elijah was told to go to the brook Cherith, God had already commanded the ravens to feed him there. The provision was already scheduled, but only in the place God directed. If Elijah had gone anywhere else, he would have missed the miracle. The same applies to your life. The blessings you are praying for are often already in place, but they are tied to divine instructions that require trust and obedience. You cannot walk into a millionaire phase if you're still standing in a place of disobedience. God funds his assignments, not your alternatives. So if you are building something he didn't ask you to build, you may struggle to see his hand move. But the moment you reposition your life to follow his leading, provision begins to flow in unexpected ways. It comes through people you didn't know, doors you didn't knock on, and opportunities you couldn't have orchestrated on your own. The positioning is the signal to heaven that you are ready to carry the weight of the provision. Divine positioning often requires you to leave comfort. Sometimes God will ask you to step away from what's familiar and walk into uncertainty. Not because he wants to scare you, but because faith thrives where logic ends. Abraham didn't see the full provision of God until he left his father's house and stepped into the unknown. The instruction came first. The provision followed. Many are waiting for provision to feel safe enough to obey. But the kingdom doesn't operate on that formula. You move first, and God reveals as you go. That's divine positioning. It's not always comfortable, but it's always covered. The reason some people don't experience supernatural provision is because they never allow themselves to be led. They want control, and control is the enemy of divine positioning. When you try to manage everything, predict everything, and orchestrate every step, you block the flow of faith. God positions those who are willing to surrender. When you say, Lord, place me where you want me, you are giving him permission to lead you into provision you couldn't plan. You are saying yes to being in the right room at the right time with the right people under the right grace. Provision is not limited to finances. Divine provision includes ideas, connections, wisdom, open doors, rest, and protection. But these are all byproducts of being in the place God has called you to occupy. When you are divinely positioned, you don't have to beg for resources. They find you because your presence in that space is backed by heaven. You begin to operate under divine flow instead of human effort. You may still work hard, but the results are multiplied because you are working within God's will, not against it. There's a reason why certain seasons feel dry and frustrating. It's often because your position has expired. You've outgrown the level God placed you in before, and now he's calling you higher. But if you resist that call and cling to old instructions, you will miss the fresh provision meant for your next level. Divine provision flows with divine timing. You must be sensitive to when God says, move, stay, release, or step up. Your miracle is not in your comfort zone. It's in your obedience zone. Being positioned correctly doesn't mean you'll always understand why you're there. Sometimes God places you in environments that seem slow, hidden, or even beneath your potential. But what looks like delay is often divine setup. God may be using that place to refine you, build endurance, or test your stewardship. And when he sees that you've passed the test, the doors begin to open without force. Favor follows function, and function begins with being in the right place, spiritually, emotionally, and physically. Provision always flows where purpose is planted. When you're in divine position, you don't chase resources. Resources respond to your assignment. You're not chasing money. Money is chasing your assignment. This is one of the greatest mindset shifts you must embrace as you step into your millionaire phase. The world teaches us to run after money, hustle constantly, and measure success by how much we accumulate. But in the kingdom of God, the equation is different. When you pursue your divine assignment with obedience and excellence, provision begins to locate you. Money becomes a tool that follows purpose. It no longer controls you, it serves you. And the moment you stop idolizing wealth and start aligning with your calling, the flow begins to change. Your assignment carries weight. It has a sound in the spirit. It has a frequency that tracks what it needs. You were created with a specific purpose, and with that purpose comes divine backing. Every calling God places on your life comes with provision attached to it. When you step into your assignment with full commitment, not halfway, not conditionally, but with full surrender, you begin to see things fall into place. Ideas come with ease. Partnerships are drawn to you. Doors begin to open without you forcing them. This is not coincidence. It is divine orchestration. You are walking in a rhythm that heaven recognizes. Money is not evil, and neither is wealth. But when you chase money without a mission, you end up empty even if you succeed. The real power is in being so rooted in your assignment that you don't need to beg, manipulate, or compromise to receive. You are not desperate for money because your confidence is in the God who funds the vision. When your motive is pure and your pursuit is purpose-driven, resources begin to chase you. They respond to clarity. They respond to boldness. They respond to vision backed by action. People spend years chasing checks, jobs, clients, and business deals that don't align with who they truly are. They live burnt out, frustrated, and constantly feeling behind. But the truth is, money flows fastest when you are in flow with your purpose. Your assignment makes room for you. It creates value in the earth. It solves problems. It blesses others. And wherever there is impact, income is inevitable. You weren't created to survive by chasing money. You were created to lead, to build, to innovate, and to release something into the world that carries eternal value. That's where the wealth is. There is a supernatural acceleration that comes when you stop chasing and start building. When you focus on the assignment, you no longer measure success by how much money you've made this month. You measure it by how fully you've stepped into the work God has given you. And as you stay faithful, consistent, and excellent in your lane, the increase comes. Clients find you. Investors find you. Because your assignment is magnetic. It pulls provision out of unseen places. It turns your name into a solution. This doesn't mean you don't work. It means your work is aligned. It means your energy is focused. You stop scattering yourself trying to fit into everything and start honing in on the one thing that you were born to do. And the more you pour into that space, the more fruitful it becomes. Money becomes a fruit, not the root. It's a result of impact. The people who change the world aren't always chasing a paycheck. They're chasing transformation. And because of that, wealth comes as a byproduct of obedience. When you operate from assignment, you don't just build a business, you build legacy. You don't just earn income, you activate influence. You're no longer anxious about provision because you understand that money is meant to serve the mission, not define your worth. God never designed his people to be in a constant state of hustle and fear. He designed you to walk in dominion, knowing that if you're doing what he called you to do, everything you need will come to you at the right time, in the right measure, through the right channels. This is the mindset that breaks cycles of striving and burnout. It's the revelation that shifts you from survival to stewardship. You're not just trying to get ahead. You're here to release something sacred into the earth. And that sacred thing, your assignment, carries the authority to call in every resource, relationship, and financial stream necessary to fulfill it. You stop asking, how can I get more money? And start asking, how can I be more faithful to my assignment? Because when you answer that question with action, money begins to show up. Not because you chased it, but because your obedience made space for it. Faith is the currency that unlocks millionaire-level favor. In the natural world, we are taught that money is the currency that opens doors, pays bills, and secures influence. But in the kingdom of God, faith is what gives you access to the unseen, the impossible, the supernatural. Before wealth manifests in your hands, it must first be conceived in your spirit. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. It is not a feeling or a concept, it is a force. It moves mountains, breaks cycles, and calls things that are not as though they were. Millionaire-level favor does not begin with strategy alone. It begins with a vision that stretches your natural mind and a faith that refuses to settle for anything less than what God has promised. Faith is what allows you to speak increase in the middle of lack, to declare overflow when you're still living paycheck to paycheck, to plan for abundance when your reality looks like limitation. The kind of favor that takes you from not enough to more than enough is attracted to bold faith. The kind that steps out on the water without a backup plan. The kind that dares to dream when others have accepted defeat. Faith does not wait for conditions to be perfect. It moves on the word. It responds to God's voice, not the economy, not the opinions of people, not the numbers in your account. When God speaks, faith acts. It's that act of trust that activates the miraculous. There is a level of faith that only faith can unlock, not hustle, not education, not connections. Those things have value, but they are powerless without faith. Faith is what gives substance to strategy. It is the invisible ingredient that causes everything else to produce results far beyond natural expectation. People often admire the fruit of favor without realizing the faith it took to get there. They see the open doors, the financial increase, the divine acceleration, but they don't always see the seasons of radical obedience that preceded it. Faith builds in the dark. It grows in moments when you have every reason to quit, but you choose to believe anyway. It stretches you to give when it doesn't make sense, to apply when you feel unqualified, to launch when you feel unprepared. And in response to that kind of faith, heaven releases favor that makes no sense, favor that positions you in rooms you didn't expect to enter, favor that multiplies what little you had into more than enough. Millionaire-level favor is not random. It is drawn to those who trust God beyond what they can explain. Faith gives you access to divine blueprints, ideas, strategies, and insights that can't be taught, but are downloaded from heaven. Faith makes you bold enough to act on them, even when they go against logic. Many of the greatest breakthroughs in history were birthed by people who had nothing but faith. They didn't have the capital. They didn't have the backing, but they had a word from God. And they moved on it. That movement activated favor. And the favor produced fruit. Faith also gives you endurance. Building wealth God's way is not always instant. There will be seasons of sowing, of stretching, of pruning. Faith keeps you anchored when the progress is slow and the warfare is intense. It keeps your vision alive when discouragement tries to cloud it. Faith is not just about believing for a moment. It's about continuing to believe when time tests you. It's about staying in position long enough for the promise to manifest. That kind of faith is what separates those who dream from those who possess. The favor that comes through faith is not ordinary. It's not limited to what you qualify for on paper. It opens doors that others cannot explain. It causes people to bless you without knowing why. It brings resources from places you didn't expect. Faith invites heaven to intervene in your affairs. It puts you on a different frequency, one where miracles are normal and provision. You are no longer controlled by what you see. You operate from what God has said. Faith positions you to think like an owner, not a beggar. It causes you to make decisions with vision instead of fear. It pushes you to invest, to create, to build, not because everything is guaranteed, but because you trust the one who gave you the blueprint. And as you move, the favor follows. Doors open, ideas prosper, connections align, wealth flows. Faith was the key all along. It is not the result of having money. It is the foundation that brings it. Faith is the spiritual currency that heaven responds to, and it never returns empty.